noticed on social media that sometimes you get these people, that the randos, that if you happen to engage on a thread that's at all controversial, these folks will go on your social media profile and look and see what information is public and then try to use it as a gotcha against you. Well, that happened to me this morning. I woke up really early because our dog, Charlie, was pawing at my husband, Bill. Bill is Charlie's person, and Charlie's a bit needy, and he kept pawing at him. And it woke us up. So I got up to go to the bathroom, and by the time I was doing that, I was wide awake, and I decided to look at Facebook, because that's what I do first thing when I wake up. And I really shouldn't, but I do. Anyway, there was a tag from the thread that I talked about in yesterday's video that regarding Joni Ernst, the Republican Iowa senator, who, when somebody said people are going to die when you cut Medicaid, when she said we're all going to die. Well, in that thread I had said, meanwhile, we're all being forced to birth. Because that is what is happening. Not to me personally, but it is happening in the United States. Well, I got a lot of comments from men, and most of the comments from men were rather nasty and judgmental. And I ignored several of them, and I responded to a few. And I thought I was done with it. But then this morning I noticed that I got a tag from a guy named Jimmy. And Jimmy was one of those people that stalked my profile. And this is what Jimmy had to say to me. He says, meanwhile, your profile says you went to college. Did you not learn about contraception or abstinence along the way? Well, I don't think that Jimmy could have chosen a worse person to ask that question to. But this was my response. Dude, I not only learned about that stuff, I got double master's degrees in public health and social work. I've seen firsthand what happens when women and girls can't access essential health care and or have babies they either don't want or can't afford to raise. And that's precisely why I am and always will be 100% pro-choice. Now quit being a stalker and kindly fuck all the way off. I don't know if Jimmy will respond to my comment or if somebody else will want to take me on, but in all seriousness, I spent 3 years in graduate school. One of my jobs was working in a prevent child abuse program. It was called Healthy Families South Carolina. And basically what we were doing was teaching young mothers, really young mothers, but young parents, how to raise their babies without abusing them, because so many of them had had them too young and didn't have the resources. That was literally what that program was for. And it was a program funded by Prevent Child Abuse. So that was one. Another was a assistantship that I had for about 1.5 years. I worked in healthcare policy, but my boss was somebody who had spent a lot of time working in maternal and child health. She was a nurse. And so we did a lot of work in that field as well. I also worked as an intern in a rural healthcare practice, and I had clients that ran the gamut. I had elderly people that I worked with, but I also had a young lady whose mother had actually forced her to have an abortion she didn't want. And I'm against that too. But the thing is in South Carolina, they were very, very big on abstinence education. And yeah, we learned about contraception too, but they were not really very big on giving it out or making it affordable. So there were many, many young women and girls who were pregnant. And yeah, I worked with them. But as for myself, I actually am the poster child for abstinence. I didn't have sex until 2 weeks after my wedding day, and I was 30 years old. And my husband also was similarly not one to go out and have a lot of sex. He had sex with his ex-wife and then with me. And that's it. You can believe us or not, but that is the truth. We were not the people that you need to lecture about that. Just because somebody says that they're pro-choice doesn't mean they need a lecture about birth control or abstinence. And even if I didn't go to grad school, I wouldn't need that lesson from a guy named Jimmy. But what I would like to ask Jimmy is if when he was a young man, presuming that he is heterosexual, I would assume that he is, was he pressuring young women to have sex with him? And if he did, was he wearing a condom? Because I think if you're going to lecture people on stuff like that, you better be practicing what you preach. Birth control is not just for women. It's also for men. And a lot of these men, they want to put it all on the women, and they want to assume that we're all a bunch of sluts. And that just plain isn't the truth. Whether or not a woman enjoys sex or does it for fun or frequently or whatever, that's kind of beside the point anyway. People need abortions for reasons other than they had an oops. And that's really the main reason why I'm so much for it being legal, because there are situations where it just simply is the right thing to do. I'm sorry, but if you're an 11-year-old girl and your stepfather has abused you and made you pregnant, then yes, you should be allowed to have an abortion. If you're a victim of a sex crime, and yes, you can get pregnant from that, absolutely you should have abortion care if you need it. If you are a woman who has got health issues, or you have a fetus that has issues, then yes, you should be able to get health care for that, and it's nobody else's goddamn business. That's why I am really pro-choice. But I also think that if you are somebody who is irresponsible, which I'm not saying that everybody is, or if you are somebody who doesn't want to have a baby, maybe you're not the best candidate for that. My guess is that Jimmy probably does not vote for people who want to make healthcare affordable and accessible and easy. He's probably one of those people who would say to a woman, well, you got yourself pregnant, you made your bed, now you need to lie in it, and no, I'm not going to help you. No, I'm not going to want any programs that would help you and your baby. You know, just stay pregnant. Doesn't matter that you're going to need prenatal care. I don't want to have to pay for that. It's not my fault. But by God, if you decide you don't want to have that baby, he's also going to want to put you in prison. Ruin your life, ruin lives of people around you, or at least disrupt it. Fill up our already full prisons. We have too many of. And, you know, yeah, we got lots of for-profit prisons, but we also have taxpayer-supported prisons. They never think about these things. It never occurs to them that maybe there's a woman in their life who's going to need this kind of care. They just want to assume that we're all a bunch of irresponsible sluts and that they need to remind us of birth control and abstinence. And they always fail, always, to remember that a lot of sex happens because men want it, and men ask for it and demand it. Because there's not a single person, not a single woman that I know, myself included, who hasn't been propositioned or pressured or harassed. So, that's more than I really wanted to say today, and I actually didn't want to make a talking video. I want to make a music video today, and I hope I will. Bill has gone away again. He's on his way to Poland this morning, but he'll be back in a couple of days. And in the meantime, I may be making more videos, and some of them may be talking, and some of them may be music. I may get around to a parody. And again, if you don't like what I do, just move on. But yeah, these men really irritate the hell out of me. Don't preach to me about abstinence, really. I was the poster child for that. And don't remind me about birth control, because I probably know a whole lot more about that than you do, Jimmy. So with that said, have a good day. See you next video.